Okay.
Okay. So our question is, let me get in the right spot. Um, some experts claim that solid classroom management skills are more important than even content knowledge. Do we agree with this premise? And then what are the issues that we face in the classroom? And I think we kind of just go from there in our conversation. Our conversation. Um, I don't know if we want to. My name is Heather Lieber, and Tatiana, you want to go next and
Um,
introduce yourself?
yeah, so I am an art teacher at Gordon Parks. Um, okay. Next person can introduce themselves.
I'm Israel. I teach history, Kansas history, and geography at Holton Middle School.
I'm Corinna. I teach music in Moscow, Kansas.
Nice. I can
And
go.
I
Mhm.
was gonna say I didn't introduce. I do FACS or Family and Consumer Sciences. So
Nice. So, that question for our discussion is interesting. I was just talking to, I have a mentor they assigned to me for another art teacher that teaches K to 8. And we just talked, I mean, we all have some passion in the field that we have studied so hard, get our degrees in, or, I mean, we know probably a lot about it if we end up teaching it. But then the disciplining and managing the classroom takes so much time that it's kind of crazy that there's not sometimes even a lot of art teaching and not nearly as much as I wish because I just constantly have to figure out how to manage the behavior. And I'm sure I can get better little by little, but also I feel like every year or maybe every group is just so different. And when you might feel like you're already getting it or you mastered it, some new kid joins the class and it like changes the dynamic completely. So when I look at it, like I feel like my content knowledge is better than my management skills, but then I feel like I would have to get down on myself too much. Like I think we need to also celebrate the progress that we make, and it can never really be perfect. I mean, however we try, we could just learn and apply as much as we can. But sometimes the classroom is just gonna look crappy and the kids are gonna misbehave. And we still, did our best and we learned things through Fort Hayes or whatever, but still in practice it just doesn't work sometimes. That's my take on it, but
I think that content knowledge is probably the most important thing when it comes to it, but using that content knowledge and putting it on the level of your students is right up there. Um, when it comes down to it, you have to understand your student and how they can understand what you're saying. I mean, you could know everything and you can think everybody's understanding it, but by the time it comes to like say assessment time or test time, and you're like, none of them got this. And I thought it was pretty self-explanatory, but again, you have different levels of students, different levels of learners. Some behavior issues can also be put into play. Um, so I think it's a balance when you get to the two of them. I mean, you really have to know what you're talking about in order to teach it, and there are some students that are so advanced that they'll pick up on the fact that if you're not sure about what you're talking about, they're going to be like, well, then what? Why am I here if this guy's not going to be able to teach me? And I've run into that myself. Um, since now I have more than just the history classes to teach. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
That's my take, I think.
There's always like difficult questions to ask, like not right now, but in the past I taught like Photoshop. And I mean, there's just so much to certain topics. Like it's like a bottomless pit of information that you cannot just know everything. You just have to come up with some transitional answers, be like, let's look it up or let's find out together. Like, I'm sorry I didn't, let's look into this
Right.
together. Or I don't know.
I am that being said, like I have several different content areas that I teach,
Mhm.
from family studies to nutrition to sewing and all of those things. And
Mhm.
so, I am not an expert in probably any of those.
Mhm.
Um, so I there are times where I am like honest, like, hey guys, this is the first time that I'm teaching this. I don't know how long it's gonna take. I don't know. I may not know the answer, but we'll figure it out. Um, I do feel like the content knowledge piece of it, um, is easier to grasp because it's something that we're passionate about. And we weren't really passionate, maybe not passionate's the right word, but we weren't really expected or known for the classroom management piece of it. I don't know that I'm expressing that the right way, but like I feel like we as teachers go into it with our heart set on this content that we're going to teach and don't really think about the maybe all the other aspects that are in the classroom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know
It
what.
does. I think what I guess in my opinion, it's because I have the one subject that I actually teach mostly, and when you have to do different various ones, I think it's probably different. And my class is a core class, so um, in order for me to be there, I have one focus, and that's teaching the history aspect of it. Whereas, like for you, for example, facts, there's what different units for different
Mhm.
weeks of the. And yeah, that makes sense exactly. I
Yeah.
picked up on what you're saying.
Yeah. So I mean, and I'm an elective, whereas you're probably, I mean, you're a core class. And so I think
Hmm.
that makes a difference on classroom management as well,
Oh yeah.
because my kids don't, I mean, they've elected to take the class for
Hmm.
the most part. Sometimes they're just put in there because they need another course, but um so sometimes it can be difficult if you have a bigger class compared to a smaller class and all of those things.
Have you guys explored the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation? I have a hard time sometimes finding things like say I mean, I'm trying to create a safe environment, creative environment, um, and reinforcing interesting motivation, like valuing self-expression in art over external rewards. But the classrooms are just so intense and there's so many kids and so many things that are going on that it's so hard for me to be like if I feel like one-on-one I could accomplish this really easily, but when there's like 25 students with 25 different things on their mind, it's really hard for me to get them motivated without the material reward like candy or I don't know, some stickers or we have these paper things called focus bucks and they collect them and on Fridays they pick something from the focus buck store. But without that, like it's really, really hard for me still to accomplish things.
Hmm.
Have you,
I went. Oh,
yeah, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just wondering if you
Oh,
guys have succeeded with something that would motivate him that wasn't like food or
Well, I ran into the issue with I have this incentive in my class called Champ of the Week. For block schedules, I have to do it every 2 weeks because it's a 5 day class, 5 days, and I do a drawing. And anytime somebody does something nice or something, they get a little one of those miniature candy bars. And once they win, if they win, they get a bigger one, and the prizes get progressively bigger, like I say. And then I ran into the part where people expect candy when they're doing something nice or something, and or
Mhm.
they'll purposely try to do something to get candy, and I'm like, that's not showing me the behavior that I want to see. That's just showing me you want candy. And so
Mhm.
they kind of expect it. So it is very difficult to keep them um focused wise rather than the reward. Why should I be this person instead of why shouldn't I do this just to get candy?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think we're kind of leaving someone out here.
Yeah, does anybody else want to add something to that? What kind of rewards do you guys give out and how is it working?
I don't really do rewards. And actually, classroom management is not my biggest problem. So I don't actually agree with this. I don't think it's my greatest professional concern. My issue with music is trying to find all of the events to go to and mentors and just not feeling isolated in my area of the state, which is really small. And it doesn't have very much going on for my kids to do outside of our little school. So really my biggest issue is expanding and classroom management. Like I think you guys mentioned you have big classes. I'm in a really small district, so I have small classes, and really what's helped me manage classrooms is just having a really good relationship with them. At the beginning of the school year, I had some issues just because I was new and they didn't know me, but as they've gotten to know me, I really don't have any behavior problems. Like, I guess I'm just kind of lucky. So,
Yeah, I mean, you must either be extremely talented with this or it's the composition of your classroom, but probably combination of both.
I did, I taught 4 years of preschool before I taught like high school and stuff, so I was used to dealing with a lot of really extreme behaviors. So I feel like I just do a lot of redirection and a lot of planned ignoring. I don't like to make mountains out of molehills. Like if I hear a kid say something sarcastic, I'm just whatever. It's okay. So I just kind of keep moving on, especially in bands. Like I'm just like, all right, we're starting from the top, and then I'll just drown them out with music. Like whatever, we're done talking.
Yeah. It's kind of funny when we talk about behaviors because it's sad that some people could say at this age when I have middle school students, at this age nothing surprises me, but I had an event happen with me. If I get frustrated and I'm getting like surrounded by 10 people asking me, what do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? When the instructions are all, in classroom, things like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? I tell them, have you read classroom? And then I have all 10 people or so something coming at me. I start getting frustrated and I develop a stutter a little bit. Behavior wise, one of the students that is very quiet, very intelligent, very smart, just decided to um, middle classroom just jump up and start doing a stutter and kind of make fun of me. I'm like, oh, that hurt. Um, how do you go about like not taking it personal, but not taking it personal? You understand what I'm asking on
Yeah.
that part? I mean, it is a personal issue that comes up every now and again, not always. Um, but I think if we don't take it personal, it doesn't show much as far as caring about the student. But it took me by surprise because it was a student who very rarely doesn't do something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's important that like you show your feelings and express Because I mean, that's how they're gonna learn. Not necessarily say like learning it from the bad sense, but like, hey, that was really hurtful. That hurt my feelings. I don't appreciate you doing that. Um, and kind of having that conversation. I know probably easier said than actually doing. Um, uh, but I think sometimes kids forget that we as adults have feelings too.
Mhm.
And what they say is hurtful, regardless of if it was, I mean, whether they meant it or not. Um,
Well, I mean, I can tell when sometimes some of the students are actually remorseful or just upset that they got, or remorseful because they got in trouble, or
mhm.
it's like one of those. Are you apologizing because you got caught, or because or because you actually really do feel bad about what you did or said?
Right.
Um, no, but I said, wow, that took me by surprise because
Mhm.
like I said, the kid never really disrupts or anything, but that kind of caused a domino effect in that classroom. It's divided between lunch, so I meet with them about 40 minutes before lunch, then they have lunch, and then they have another 20 minutes or so um after lunch to come back to the classroom, and that last 20 minutes is when that happened, and oh, it was a bad spiral yesterday. Um, Ended up with like 5 write-ups from students for it broke out into laughing to shoving to messing around, somebody getting caught in the crossfires and kicking the chair at somebody. Oh, it was horrible. But I am hoping that they are learning from that experience. But that was kind of crazy for me as far as the behavior management.
Yeah, I know, like I've read a few things and I don't remember where I saw this, but like taking them out in the hallway and not necessarily addressing it in the classroom, but taking them out in the hallway so that it doesn't rile up everybody else and having that conversation with them in the hallway. Um, giving them a warning. I've also seen where they have like a piece of paper that has different questions like why do you think you've been sent out in the hallway? And so they can reflect on why they're out there before they have an opportunity to talk with you or you talk with them. I I
I,
haven't had to use that, but
hallways are like a form of punishment. The problem is our hallway isn't really a hallway; it's a library, and it's
oh yeah.
library's kind of like a center console, so it's kind of like a reward to send them out there now. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Um, Originally the classroom didn't have walls. We still have at the back of our classroom maybe a 2 foot section from the ceiling that's still not walled up. So, I mean, if a class gets out of hand, usually mine because I'm loud. Um, mm, Other teachers will come over and be like, "Hey, you guys need to keep it down. We don't have walls." Yeah, I'm sorry, but no. Yeah, if I can't send them out to a wall, there's a library out there, and I mean that's a fun
Mhm.
community center pretty much.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I think my process for those kinds of things, and the few times that I've had it, has been to first say, just don't do that, just stop, because you have to address it in the classroom. You can't really wait for something like that. You have to stop it. And then I'll
mhm.
say, all right, you're gonna stay with me after class. Right when the bell rings, I'll be like, hey, you come here and stay here. And I'll have a conversation with them about whatever. If it's about you, then how it made you feel, whatever, and why would you say something like that? And would you like that if that was said about you? The whole, stuff that you say.
Yeah.
If saying stop in the classroom didn't stop it, I just get on my phone and I text my principal. I don't even tell the kids what I'm doing. I just text him and I'm like, hey, I need you here for this student. And he'll come in and he'll get him and walk out. And that's that. We just keep
Mhm.
doing our lesson. I don't really, I don't know how well your administration backs you up. So that is
Oh,
an
they're
issue for
great.
you.
They're they are great here. But yeah,
Mhm.
they came to check on me because I kind of shared the story with all of my students about my prior work experience in the school. I used to be working with ELLs, and I shared a story about one of my students who had the stutter problem, like I did, and really looked up to me and always asked me for advice and how do you control it? How do you do this? That student um, unalived himself, unalived themselves, and so it hit hard when that happened, and so uh, that's why it really, really, really hurt, I guess, because I had just barely shared that with them not long ago. They used to make fun of this student, and he got bullied and picked on quite a bit. Then that happened, and so that's what really hit, I guess. But yeah, the administration once they knew because I did write them up, um, they came down and checked on me personally and were like, are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. It took me by surprise as well.
Yeah. So I know we're supposed to get to know the students, and when we know the students, then they can trust us. But I have a hard time like figuring out the time when we are supposed to get to know them. Like even just having the kid there after class to talk to them. I don't know how much time you have between transitions, but some of my classes I have like 0 minutes. Like there's one class ends and then the other one starts like on my schedule. Sometimes I don't know if they made a mistake in the scheduling. Sometimes there's like maybe 2 minutes in transition. So there's all these little people. It's so hard to clean
Um,
up all the art supplies and get them out the door. And there's no way I'm gonna have any even 5 minutes to talk to
sta
them.
yeah, staggered classes. I had that last year in the school I was at last year. Um, as soon as one class let out, the other one was already like they were lined up at the door ready to come in, and that kind
Mhm.
of was bad for me because at that moment I was still freshly out of the hospital, surgeries and whatnot, and I had stuff going on, so that I couldn't even go to the bathroom in between classes because they were lined up at the door waiting for the that class to get out. Yeah. Oh, that stinks.
So sometimes the kids that are give me a really hard time and I just can't figure it out. I invite them over for lunch, not necessarily as a reward, but I just like I want to crack the problem and like get to know them. Like maybe if I know them, then somehow they're behave better. And it does help, but then a lot of times they might have like ADHD or some other problems and they like can't control their bodies sometimes. Like I was like, I know we're on good terms and we like each other, but they'll still like do something that I didn't want to do during the class. Um, but I am trying to get to know them, the really hard ones. I don't know what you guys do. How do you get to know the kids?
I think something really simple that I started doing was just being really present in the hallway and always like greeting them when they come through the door. Like I just stand there and I'll hold the door open for them and I'll say, "Good morning, how are you?" Blah blah blah. Just really small chit chat. And I found like now there's several of them that make it a point. They'll come into my classroom like before the day even starts and they'll like show me their new shoes they got or whatever. Like they'll come and seek me out now. So it was really small, but I noticed like when I started doing that during passing periods, which you don't seem to have, I guess. So it might not work for you. I noticed a big difference in the kids.
Yeah, how many kids do you teach at your school, Karina?
We have a really small school. I think it's like 75 in the district. So
Ah,
it's small. So my biggest class is band, and it's 18 students.
man. Yeah, I have the kids that are taking art classes, approximately over 400 of them. So I know there's bigger schools than that, but like I cannot possibly get to know all of them, even all the ones like I also try to greet them and get to know them, but it's just not enough time to like I mean, if I'm there and I should be there for a while, then maybe after like a year or something, it actually makes a difference finally. But it would be
You-
nice to have like 75 for that reason that I would know them better. But
What age group do you Like, it's elementary? Is that what you had said? Or no?
It's a K to 8.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
I think it's probably going to be tough for the first few years, but like, so those kindergartners that you have,
Mhm.
I'm sure like next year will be a little bit easier because you will have seen them. Um, I think probably each year it'll just get
Mhm.
easier and easier. It's just the first few years, getting to know everybody all at once is hard.
Yeah, and I don't have a good memory for names. I got the middle schoolers down pretty well now, but there's just too many little people there for me to absorb all the names.
They're all buddy.
Hey,
Yeah.
buddy. Yeah, exactly. What's up, bro? Oh, I uh, I remember names when they're in front of me. If they're not in front of me, then I'm like, which one is that one again? Um, I have several students. I, not to give out names or anything, but their names are so super similar that it's like, all right, I want to say that name, but I'm pretty sure it's the other one. But and I don't even have that big of a class. I think my biggest classroom is probably 20. My smallest is 11. I have the one that's 20. It's the 11 is the ones that are the um I have a class of just bad behavior students, I guess you want to call them. Uh, but I think my biggest class, the one that I talked about earlier, I think that's the worst one when it comes to misbehaving, even if they don't have that condition. I think they just decide to act up anyway. So
I think bigger classes, they feed off of each other too, and that doesn't
most definitely.
that's not working for us. I have a class that has 17 and it's just I really dread that class because my classroom is it I mean it's a big classroom, but it's not.
Hmm.
It's, um and so they're all kind of just packed in there and um some of them are listening and some of them are participating and others are just like off into la la land and um having their own conversations. So, but with my smaller classes, I feel like even if they aren't paying attention, at least they're not talking.
Hmm. Yeah, I got some of those students, and I'm just like, they're not gonna do anything anymore. They're not gonna do anything as soon as they get here. I know that they're not gonna do their homework, so I just kind of okay. They don't care. I care, but I'm not gonna beg them to do their work. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I have students that won't do anything, but they turn in all their work when it's due on time, but they won't do anything within the class. Um, I get students that be like, "What can I do to lift up to raise my grade?" I said, "Maybe you should turn in your homework that you have or your work that you have. That might help." Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't want to do that, but is there something else I can do? No, just do that. And I'll give you points if you do it. Just do it. Um, but
I found that giving them zeros right on the due date will have them like be motivated to get it in a little quicker. He'll be like, "Oh, I gotta get that done, or it's gonna be a zero." I'm like, "Yeah," and I'll take it late, but I go ahead and put the zero in as soon as it's
Mhm.
due.
oh yeah, I'll get parents calling me as soon as it gets updated in Power School. Why is my student they're not turning in their work?
Yeah.
Well, they say they've done that work. Yeah, have they submitted? So that's the whole point behind it. I do take work. I will not count off points if if they turn it in within a reasonable time frame. But you know, some kids will do their work and then not turn it in. Some people won't do their work, and don't care. And then I have some people that will have it done constantly, sometimes even early. And I'm just like, take your time, man. I'm trying to balance having to have block scheduling, having an hour and 25-minute class rather than a 55-minute class like before. So take your time, man. You're gonna have plenty. But
Mhm.
Some kids just want to get it done so they can move on to the next video game they're going to play on their iPads or whatever.
I had a student tell me today, he's like, yeah, I have that paper. I just keep forgetting to bring it to you. He's like, it's literally in my locker. If you want to go get it, you can go get it. And I'm just like, that's your job. So no.
You go get it. You go get it.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I had some students working on these cardboard sculptures, and cleanup is so like hectic at the end when there's a lot of materials out. And then the next time they come, I'm like, well, grab your cardboard sculpture and keep working on it. He's like, where is it? Oh, I don't know. Where did you leave it? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be going around looking for it. Usually put it on top of cabinets or inside of cabinets, pretty clear. But he like
Well,
didn't know. So I had to start over.
my students have a 3-ring binder where they're supposed to keep all their work. And anytime they have an assignment that's on paper or something, I tell them, don't give it to me. If I get it, I'm gonna lose it. I said, submit it online. Take a picture of it, put it up on the in the classroom, submit it there. If you leave your papers here, and I warn them time and time again, your notes, no matter what it is, if you leave them in my classroom and they're on my floor or under your desk or even on your desk, by the time you leave, you're not gonna have it the next day because I'm not gonna put it away for you. I'm gonna throw it away. So I think they're finally starting to learn after what is it, 12 weeks already that they're finally starting to learn, wait, he doesn't want me to give him a piece of paper. I'm like, exactly. We just finished a unit on the Plains American natives of the plains in Kansas, and yeah, oh, my floor looks like a tidal wave went through there, a tornado or something, because there's so many tents, canoes, totem pole, art projects that they made, and
Cool.
they're all really nice.
That sounds cool. I want to see what you have.
Yeah, it was
Maybe
fun.
I need to figure out how to collaborate with the social studies teacher. I just been too soaked in being new, but I would like to
Um,
collaborate with my colleagues sometimes, but that sounds really cool.
Mhm.
One of my students never does their work, and their project wasn't due until, for them, it's not due until Monday. On Tuesday this week, he's like, "Where do I put this?" And he built a pueblo out of stones and put it together, which is one of the homes that they built out of rocks, and they kind of covered it with like, I mean, the natives use like clay and stuff to kind of fill in the gaps. And I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he brought it in. I'm like, that's not due till next week, right? And he's like, yeah, I know, but I wanted it. It came out pretty nice.
Well, I don't know. Well, see, that's the thing. Like every time you like find the the niche, the thing that they're really into, they get so good and they can do it. But then not it's not everyone's expertise to be an artist or whatever your subject area. But if they find what they're interested in, they can do amazing things. It's just hard to
Oh, yeah.
make a very specific plan for every single student. It's hard to do.
I made sure to tell them that when they do their like they were recreating something from the Native Americans that made, so there was teepees, canoes, totem poles, whatever it was, that it had to tell a story. And so, um, meaning like when we were doing the lectures and stuff, I talked about how they decorated their teepees and they told a story based on a hunt or maybe a war or something. That's what they painted on their teepees. And so I was
Mhm.
like, when you make your stuff, tell a story. I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan in Kansas City Chiefs territory. And so one student brought in a teepee and it had the Buffalo Bill on the logo on the tent and a Kansas City arrow sticking through the buffalo and said this was a story, the hunt of 2022 when it was a championship game. I'm like, oh my gosh. They like to rub it in. They love to rub it in, but oh well. I did was creative and I gave him all his points for that because it was very creative. And yeah, it's all good and fun and rivalry. So
Alright. So we have about 1 minute and 40 seconds. We gotta have to wrap it up somehow. Is there any like maybe major points or something that was very important that you discovered this semester teaching from your own experience, something that really helped? your classroom, if anybody would want to share maybe one more thing. I don't think we have enough
I
time for
think
everybody.
I think students like to feel a little bit of ownership for the classroom, so they like to feel responsible for kind of the way it looks, the way it might be set up, turning things in and helping each other be accountable. And like I've noticed that if you let them kind of like keep each other on task, then it's more effective than me trying to go around and being like, hey, you need to be doing this, hey. Like they kind of keep each other in line. Like some of them will act up or talk,
Mhm.
brag, whatever, and they'll be like, another person will end it, and I don't even have to say anything. So I think that just responsibilities and sort of helping them feel like they have some
Oh yeah.
control over the environment helps a lot of behavior problems.
I did that with one of my classes with the student. I told him, you have the ability to be a leader. What you do, the rest of the class is going to do. And so the next class period, he was like, okay, guys, it's time to be quiet. It was my behavior student class, obviously. But he's like, yeah, it's time to be quiet. We need to get our work done. He was saying, I'm in charge. And kind of, he goes, you can listen. So anyway.
All right, I
mm.
think